I spent $43,000 on my daughter's wedding. Every single penny I had, plus some I didn't. The venue was perfect. White roses cascading down every pillar and archway, champagne flowing from crystal fountains, a string quartet playing something elegant and European that I couldn't name but sounded expensive. Lily looked absolutely beautiful in her dress, the one that cost more than my first car and my second car combined. I'd worked 3 jobs for 18 straight months to afford all this. My feet hurt constantly, a dull throb that never went away. My back ached from standing too long, sitting too long, existing too long in a body that was worn down from decades of hard work. But watching her walk down that aisle, seeing her face glow with happiness, made every painful hour worth it. Or so I thought at the time. The reception was in full swing when I went looking for more ice. The caterers were running low. I'd noticed the champagne buckets getting warm, and I couldn't help myself. Even at my own daughter's wedding, I was still taking care of things, still managing details, still being useful. Old habits die hard. They die slow and stubborn, like weeds with deep roots. I walked past the men's lounge near the bar, heard laughter spilling out from behind the heavy oak door, heard Frank's voice cutting through the noise. My new son-in-law, 35 years old, charming smile that showed too many teeth, worked for his father's real estate development company in some vague position that seemed to involve a lot of golf and lunch meetings. Lily had been over the moon when he proposed 6 months ago, showed me the ring, 2 carats, platinum setting, and talked about her future like it was a fairy tale finally coming true. "Come on, man, you did all right for yourself," one of his friends said. The voice was slurred, drunk. "Her family's got some money, right? That's what you said." "Her mum's broke as hell," Frank said. His voice was casual, matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. "Spent everything she had on this circus, but Lily's got potential. Good genes, decent face, could be worse." They laughed, a chorus of male bonding over women reduced to assets and liabilities. I should have walked away. Should have taken my ice bucket and my dignity and pretended I'd heard nothing. But I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the expensive carpet. "So, when you gonna seal the deal, Barrett?" another voice asked, younger, eager. "Make it official if you know what I mean." The silence that followed made my skin crawl. It stretched out for 3 seconds, maybe 4. Long enough for anticipation to build. Long enough for me to hope he'd defend her, praise her, say something loving about his new wife. "Honestly," Frank's voice dropped lower, conspiratorial. I pressed closer to the wall, held my breath. The thought of sleeping with that fat pig makes me sick. The world tilted. My hand went to my mouth, pressed hard against my lips to keep any sound from escaping. The ice bucket slipped from my other hand, hit the marble floor with a crash that echoed through the hallway. Cubes scattered everywhere, sliding across the polished stone, like diamonds spilling from a broken necklace. "Who's there?" someone called out. Footsteps approached the door. I ran, not back to the reception where music played and people danced, not toward the laughter and champagne toasts. I couldn't face anyone, couldn't paste on a smile and pretend everything was perfect. I went to the women's bathroom on the 2nd floor, the fancy one with the velvet chairs and gold fixtures, locked myself in the furthest stall and tried to breathe, tried to process what I'd just heard. My daughter, my beautiful Lily. He'd just called her a fat pig. On their wedding day, hours after promising to love and cherish her forever. She wasn't even overweight. She was curvy, yes, healthy, real. Beautiful in the way real women are beautiful, soft and strong and alive. But even if she were heavy, even if she were exactly what he'd called her, who says that about their bride? What kind of man stands in his wedding reception and talks about his wife like she's a burden he has to endure? I stayed in that bathroom for 20 minutes, maybe longer. Time felt elastic, unreliable. When I finally came out, when I looked at myself in those gold-frame mirrors, I saw a different woman than the one who'd walked in. Something had shifted. Something had broken and reformed into a shape I didn't recognize yet. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I'd made a decision. Lily needed to know. I found her near the cake, that massive 5-tier monstrosity covered in fondant flowers that cost $800. She was laughing with her bridesmaids, her face flushed with happiness and too much champagne. She glowed, pure, uncomplicated joy. For a moment, just a brief, flickering moment, I hesitated. This was her wedding day, her perfect day. The day she'd been planning since she was 7 years old, arranging her dolls in elaborate ceremonies. But no, she deserved the truth. She deserved to know who she'd married before it was too late to escape cleanly. "Lily, honey, can I talk to you? Alone?" She looked at me, smiled that wide, beautiful smile. "Mom, what's wrong? You look pale. Are you feeling okay? Did you eat something?" "I need to tell you something about Frank. It's important." Her smile faltered. "Just slightly, just enough." "Mom, not now, please." I overheard him, just now, in the men's lounge. I kept my voice low, urgent, tried to make her understand with my eyes, my tone, my desperation. "He said terrible things. About you, about your body, about—" "Stop." She held up her hand, the one with the platinum ring. "Just stop, right now. Lily, please listen to me. No, you listen." Her voice got hard, cold. I'd never heard her use that tone with me before. "What do you want, Mom? Seriously, what do you want right now? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to ruin my wedding?" "I'm not trying to ruin anything. I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me?" She laughed, but it wasn't happy. It was bitter, sharp. "From my husband, on my wedding day? Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how crazy that sounds? He called you a—" "I don't want to hear it." She stepped back, put physical distance between us. "I don't know what you think you heard, but you're wrong. You're mistaken. Frank loves me. He chose me. He married me. And you're jealous or something. You can't stand to see me happy." The words hit like physical blows. Each one landed with precision. "That's not true. That's not fair." "Isn't it? You've always been so controlling. So negative about everything in my life. Nothing's ever good enough for you. Well, guess what? This is my life, my marriage, my choice. And I'm done letting you make me feel bad about my choices. I'm done letting you poison my happiness." She walked away, left me standing there alone while the party continued around me like nothing had happened. Like my world hadn't just cracked down the middle. I stood there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. People danced, people laughed, people took photos and made toasts, and celebrated love eternal. The happy couple cut their cake. Frank fed Lily a piece, gentle and loving, his hand cradling her face like she was precious. She gazed at him like he hung the moon and painted the stars, like he was everything she'd ever wanted. And I realized something fundamental, something that changed everything. Lily wasn't going to listen. Not now. Maybe not ever. Frank had her fooled completely. Utterly. He'd charmed her so thoroughly that even hearing the truth from her own mother couldn't penetrate the fantasy she'd built. And she'd chosen him over me. Picked his lies over my truth. Fine. I'd spent my whole life being the good mother, the supportive one, the one who sacrificed everything and expected nothing in return. The one who worked herself to exhaustion, who gave up her own dreams, who made herself small and quiet and convenient. Where had that gotten me? $43,000 in debt, and my daughter calling me jealous on her wedding day. I watched Frank work the room, shaking hands, laughing at jokes, slapping backs, playing the perfect groom. Everyone loved him. Everyone bought the act. His father, John Barrett, stood nearby. Wealthy, powerful, proud, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. The Barrett family was connected, respected, untouchable. They had lawyers and accountants and influence. But everyone has weaknesses. Everyone has secrets they'd go to great lengths to protect. Everyone has a breaking point, and I had nothing left to lose. Nothing but time and anger and a burning need for justice. I could be patient. I could watch and wait and learn. I could become the threat they never saw coming. Because I was 58 years old, broke, invisible to people like the Barretts. And that made me dangerous. They moved into a townhouse in Riverside Estates. Nice neighborhood, tree-lined streets, good schools, the kind of place where people jogged at dawn and walked designer dogs. Frank's father helped with the down payment, probably threw in some furniture money too. Lily posted pictures online constantly. Thou'rt a blessed life, warch my forever, warch perfect husband. Carefully curated images of marital bliss. Coffee cups arranged just so, sunset views from their balcony, her hand with that platinum ring catching the light. I didn't visit for the first 2 weeks. Lily didn't call. That was fine. Good even. I used the time wisely. I started watching Frank. Not obsessively. Not like some movie stalker. Just paying attention in a focused, methodical way. I'd learned his schedule within 3 days. He left for work at 8 in the morning, coffee mug in hand, kissed Lily goodbye on the steps. Came home around 6, carrying his briefcase, playing the dedicated professional. Except on Thursdays. On Thursdays, he didn't come home until almost midnight, sometimes later. Where was he going? What was he doing for 6 hours after work ended? I followed him once. Felt pretty foolish, I'll admit. 58 years old, trailing my son-in-law through traffic like some bargain bin private investigator. I drove my old rusted Honda, 3 cars behind his shiny leased BMW. Kept my distance, stayed out of sight. You'd be surprised what you can pick up from crime shows when you're broke, can't afford cable, but have a library card and too much time on your hands. He went to a casino, the Grand Oak, about 40 minutes outside the city, right over the state line where gambling was legal. Big flashy place with fountains out front and valet parking. He pulled up, handed his keys to a kid in a red vest, walked inside like he owned the place. I parked in the back lot. Walked in through the regular entrance, the one for people who couldn't afford valet. Sat at the bar, nursed one $7 beer for 5 hours while I watched Frank play poker at a table near the back. He was terrible, absolutely terrible. Bet too high on weak hands. Stayed in when he should have folded. Chased losses with increasingly desperate plays. I didn't know much about poker, but I knew enough to recognize a losing strategy when I saw one. Interesting. Very interesting. I started documenting everything. Bought a notebook from the dollar store. Kept it in my purse. Dates, times, locations. Thursday, 8:47 p.m. Frank arrives at Grand Oak Casino. Thursday, 1:23 a.m. Frank leaves, visibly agitated. I felt crazy doing it, tracking my son-in-law like he was some kind of criminal, but also focused, purposeful, alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in forever, I had a goal that was entirely mine. Not for my daughter, not for my family. For me. Lily finally called on a Sunday, 3 weeks after the wedding. "Mum, can you come over for lunch?" I went. Of course I went. She was still my daughter, no matter what had happened between us. No matter what would happen in the future. The townhouse was beautiful inside. Expensive furniture, all matching. Cream leather sofa, glass coffee table. Abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Everything was perfect. Coordinated. Looked like something from a magazine spread. Not a single personal touch. Not a photo or trinket or sign that real people lived there. Lily had gained maybe 5 pounds since the wedding. She looked healthy, glowing even, a little rounder in the face, softer around the edges. "You look wonderful, honey," I said, and meant it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something was off. Something I couldn't name yet. "Thanks. Frank's been helping me with my diet. Says I should watch what I eat. Be more mindful. Red flag number 1. I filed it away. Said nothing. Lunch was salad and grilled chicken, tiny portions on large white plates. Very pretty, very unsatisfying. Lily ate slowly, carefully, like she was counting every bite, like someone was keeping score. "Where's Frank?" I asked. "Golf with his dad. They have a standing Sunday game. Every week, same time. Good bonding for them." She picked at her salad, moved lettuce around without eating it. "It's important. Family business stuff. I don't mind." We ate in silence for a while, the kind of silence that feels heavy, loaded with things unsaid. Then she said, "I'm sorry for what I said at the wedding. That was harsh. Unfair." "It's okay." "It's not. You're my mom. You were just trying to help. I shouldn't have snapped at you like that." She set down her fork, looked at me with those eyes that used to be so open, so trusting. Now they were guarded, careful. "Things are good, though, really good. Frank's wonderful, very attentive." "That's great, honey." "Yeah." She smiled again. Same empty smile, like a mask she'd learned to wear. "He's been under stress at work. His dad's company is going through some restructuring, cutting positions. Frank's been working extra hours to prove himself, show he's valuable." "I'm sure he is." We talked about nothing important after that. Safe topics. The weather, unusually warm for October. Her job at the marketing firm, new account, big client, lots of pressure. My new apartment, smaller than my old one, cheaper rent, better location actually. When I left, she hugged me tight, held on a little too long. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby." But something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones, see it in the careful way she moved, like she was performing for an invisible audience. Hear it in the pauses between her words. I drove to the library that afternoon and spent 3 hours on the public computers. Researching, learning, digging into public records that anyone could access if they knew where to look and had patience. I looked up Frank's father's company, Barrett Enterprises. Real estate development, mostly commercial. Office buildings, strip malls, a few residential developments. Successful, legitimate, clean record with the Better Business Bureau. Good credit rating, no lawsuits, no scandals, no obvious problems. But Frank himself, I dug deeper, found his social media from college. Lots of party photos, lots of drinking, red solo cups and fraternity houses. One arrest for disorderly conduct at 23, drunk and disorderly at a football game. Charges dropped, Daddy's lawyers probably. Nothing major, nothing conclusive, nothing that screamed danger. But I kept looking, kept taking notes, kept building a file. Thursday night, I drove to the Grand Oak Casino again. Parked in my usual spot in the back lot where the lights were dim and no one noticed a beat-up Honda. Waited. Frank's car showed up at 8:30, right on schedule. He went inside. I waited. 3 hours later, he came out. Even from a distance, even in the dark parking lot, I could see he was angry. Shoulders hunched, fists clenched. He kicked his tire. Hard. Then kicked it again. Slammed his door so hard I heard the sound echo across the lot. Peeled out, tires squealing against asphalt. Someone was losing money. Someone was in over his head. Perfect. 2 months after the wedding, I stopped by unannounced, brought groceries, a peace offering, an excuse, a way to see Lily without making it seem like I was checking up on her. Eggs, milk, bread, fresh vegetables, normal things, motherly things. Lily's car was in the driveway. Frank's wasn't. She opened the door in her bathrobe at 2 p.m. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were red-rimmed and swollen. She'd been crying. Recently and hard. "Mum, what are you doing here?" "Just wanted to visit. Thought you might need some groceries. Can I come in?" She hesitated. Actually hesitated. Her hand gripped the doorframe. For a second, I thought she might close the door in my face. Then she stepped aside. Yeah, sure, come in. The townhouse was a mess, complete disaster. Dishes piled in the sink, some with food dried and crusted on them. Laundry everywhere, on the couch, on the chairs, spilling out of baskets. Mail scattered across the coffee table. The perfection from my last visit was completely gone, replaced by chaos and neglect. Everything okay, honey? Fine. Just tired. She pulled her robe tighter around herself. Defensive. Closed off. Frank's been working late a lot. Really late. Stressful deals. His dad's been on him about bringing in new clients. I put the groceries on the counter, started unpacking, gave my hand something to do while I processed what I was seeing. You should eat something. Have you eaten today? I'm not hungry. Lily. I said I'm not hungry. Her voice was sharp. Then she caught herself, softened. Sorry, I'm just not feeling well. Stomach issues. I looked at her. Really looked. Studied her the way I'd learned to study people when I was trying to figure out if they were lying. She'd lost weight, significant weight, at least 15 pounds, maybe 20. Her face was drawn, hollow around the cheeks, dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. Not that she was wearing makeup. Her collarbones were more prominent than I'd ever seen them, and her hands shook slightly when she tucked hair behind her ear. Lily, talk to me, please. There's nothing to talk about. Please. She sat down at the kitchen table, slowly, like her body hurt, stared at her hands for a long time. I could see her internal debate. Tell me or don't tell me. Trust me or protect the lie. Finally, she said, Frank thinks I should lose weight. Says it'll be better for us. For our future. For when we have kids. Better how? I don't know. Her voice was small. Defeated. He says things. Comments about what I eat, how I look, compares me to his friends' wives. Says I'm not trying hard enough. Says I'm letting myself go and it's embarrassing for him. My hands clenched into fists. I forced them to relax. Honey, you're beautiful. You don't need to lose weight. You're perfect exactly as you are. You have to say that. You're my mom. I'm saying it because it's true. She pulled away, physically pulled her hands out of my reach. You don't understand. Frank just wants what's best for me, for us. He loves me. He's just trying to help me be the best version of myself. Does he? The question came out sharper than I intended. Wrong thing to say. Her face hardened. That wall came up. Yes, he does. Just because you don't like him doesn't mean he's a bad person. I never said. You don't have to say it. I can see it every time you look at him. Every time you talk about him. You've had it out for him since day one. She stood up. Thanks for the groceries, but I think you should go. Lily. Please, Mom, just go. I left, but not before I saw something that sent a chill down my spine. The spare bedroom door was open. Inside was a bed. Neatly made, with decorative pillows arranged just right, and it had clearly been used. The sheets weren't fresh. The blanket was wrinkled. They were sleeping separately. In their 2-month-old marriage, they were already sleeping in separate rooms. I started calling Lily every other day after that. Short calls, just checking in. Hi, honey. Just wanted to hear your voice. Thinking about you. Love you. She always sounded tired, always said everything was fine, always changed the subject when I asked about Frank. I didn't push, just listened, stayed present, let her know I was there, and I kept watching Frank with renewed focus and intensity. He went to the casino every Thursday without fail. Started going on Tuesdays too. Sometimes Saturdays. I couldn't follow him every time. I still had to work, still had bills to pay. But I went when I could. Watched him lose. Watched him drink too much. Watched him get angry and reckless. I started noticing other things too. Details that added up to a bigger picture. Expensive clothes, new suits, Italian shoes, designer ties. New watch on his wrist, leased sports car that he upgraded after 3 months, but his house was falling apart. Lily had mentioned money was tight. Frank had told her his father was cutting his salary because of company restructuring. They needed to be careful with spending, but he was spending money somewhere. Lots of it. I created a fake social media account, generic name, stock photo of a middle-aged woman who looked nothing like me. Started following Frank's friends. They posted photos constantly, bragging about their lives, their wins, their losses. Thursday night poker games at the Grand Oak. Frank was in most of the photos, always had a drink in his hand, whiskey, neat, always looked cocky, confident, like he was winning. One photo showed a massive pile of chips in front of him, red ones, black ones, stacked high. The caption read, "Barrett's on fire tonight, cleaning up." Another photo, posted a week later, showed Frank's face half in shadow. He looked furious. The caption, "Better luck next time, Frank. We'll get you next week, buddy." Win some, lose some, but the pattern was clear. He was losing more than he was winning. Much more. I could tell by his face in the photos, by the increasing anger in his eyes as the weeks went on, by the desperate way he leaned into the table, like he could will himself to win through sheer force. Gambling addiction, classic textbook gambling addiction, perfect, absolutely perfect. 3 months into the marriage, Lily called me at midnight. I was already asleep. I'd been working double shifts at the grocery store to try to pay down my wedding debt faster. When my phone rang, I grabbed it without looking, heart pounding. Midnight calls are never good news. "Mum, can you come get me?" I was there in 20 minutes, drove 15 miles over the speed limit the whole way, didn't care if I got pulled over. She was sitting on the front steps in jeans and a sweater, a small overnight bag at her feet. Her face was blank, shock maybe, or resignation. The look of someone who'd finally stopped fighting. "What happened?" "I just need to stay with you tonight. Is that okay? Can I stay with you?" "Of course, always. Get in the car." We drove in silence. I didn't push, didn't ask questions, just drove and let her breathe and exist without having to explain anything. When we got to my apartment, small, 1 bedroom but clean and mine, I made tea. Chamomile, the kind she'd liked since she was little. We sat on my old couch, the one I'd had since before she was born. She held the cup in both hands, stared at the steam rising. I waited. It took 15 minutes before she spoke. "We had a fight," she finally said. "About money. I found credit card statements. He's been hiding them. In his desk drawer, underneath some files. I was looking for stamps and I found them." She looked at me. Her eyes were hollow, tired. "Mom, we're $60,000 in debt." My stomach dropped. I'd expected debt. Known he was losing money at the casino. But 60,000? In 3 months? 60,000? Maybe more, probably more. The statements I found were just from 2 cards. American Express and Visa. He could have others. Probably does have others. She set down the tea. Her hands were shaking too badly to hold it. "Where did it go? We both work. We live comfortably but not extravagantly. We don't take expensive vacations. We don't buy crazy things. Where did $60,000 go in 3 months?" I could have told her, should have told her, but I needed her to figure it out herself, needed her to see it clearly so she couldn't deny it later. "What does Frank say?" "He said it's investments, business expenses, things I wouldn't understand because I don't know how his industry works." Her voice got bitter. "Things that are too complicated for my simple little brain to grasp." And then I told him that was nonsense. If he's spending our money, because it's ours, we're married, then I have every right to know where it's going. I deserve to see what's happening. She curled her knees to her chest, wrapping her arms around them, making herself small. And that's when he said... She paused, swallowed hard, and took a deep breath. "He said I was getting fat again. That stress makes me eat, and I'm letting myself go. He said maybe if I put as much effort into my appearance as I do into nagging him about money, he'd actually want to come home at night. I wanted to drive back to that townhouse and strangle him with my bare hands. Wanted to make him hurt the way he'd hurt her. But I sat still, kept my voice calm. What did you say? I said I wanted a divorce right there, standing in the kitchen. I told him I wanted out. She laughed. No humor in it, just pain. You should have seen his face. He went pale, then red. Then he started crying. Actually crying, begging me not to leave, saying he didn't mean it, that he's just stressed, that the debt is temporary, that he'll fix everything, that he loves me and can't lose me. And I left anyway, called you, came here. She looked around my small apartment. Is it okay if I stay for a few days? I just need space to think, to breathe, to figure out what I'm doing. You can stay as long as you need, forever if you want. She spent the night. In the morning, Frank called 17 times in 2 hours. She didn't answer. I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, bacon, real food. She picked at it but ate more than she had in weeks. The color came back to her face a little. I should go back, she said after breakfast. Work through this, like adults, like married people do. Or you could stay. Give yourself space to think clearly. I can't just leave my husband because we had one fight. It's not one fight, honey. It's been building. I can see it. You can see it if you're honest with yourself. You see what you want to see. But her voice lacked conviction. She went back that afternoon. I tried to talk her out of it. Failed. Frank was waiting on the steps when I pulled up. He looked awful, unshaven, rumpled clothes, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep or both. When he saw me in the driver's seat, his expression hardened, just for a second. Then he looked at Lily and softened. Vulnerable. Sorry. Pathetic. Baby, I'm so sorry, I heard him say through the open window. I was an asshole. A complete asshole. Please, let's talk. Let me explain everything. I'll show you all the statements. I'll be completely honest. Just give me a chance. She got out of the car, looked back at me once. I saw the indecision in her eyes. Stay or go, safety or hope. She chose hope. She went inside with him. Didn't look back again. I drove home and added more notes to my file. The debt was my opening, my way in. Money problems meant desperation. Desperation meant mistakes. And mistakes meant opportunities. I just had to be patient. Just had to wait for the right moment. Because Frank was going to fall. It was only a matter of time. And I was going to make sure he fell hard. I became more aggressive in my surveillance after that. Every Thursday, without fail, I followed Frank to the casino. Became a regular at the bar. The bartenders knew me now, called me Hon, and poured my beer without asking. I always ordered the same thing. Always left a decent tip. Always sat in the same spot where I had a perfect view of the poker tables. Frank was deteriorating. I could see it happening in real time, week by week, hand by hand. He was terrible at poker, absolutely terrible in a way that would have been comical if it weren't so destructive. But he kept playing. That's addiction. That's the disease. Chasing losses. Convinced the next hand will be the winner. The next bet will turn everything around. Just one more game. I watched him borrow money from friends. Small amounts at first. Hey man, can you spot me 500? I'll get you back next week. But next week never came. The friends started avoiding him, making excuses. Suddenly busy when he approached, I watched him write checks at the casino cage. Big checks. 5,000. 10,000. Checks that would bounce if his father didn't cover them. Checks that were eating away at whatever family money he had access to. I watched him stumble out at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, defeated and furious and desperate. Sometimes he sat in his car for 30 minutes before driving away, just sat there with his head on the steering wheel. One night, about 4 months after the wedding, I saw him meet with a man in the parking lot. They stood between two cars, half in shadow. The man was big, not tall but wide, built like he spent serious time in prison gyms. Tattoos covering both arms, neck tattoo visible even in the dim light, shaved head, the kind of guy you cross the street to avoid. They argued. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. Frank was defensive, hands up, palms out, explaining, pleading. The big man grabbed Frank's collar, yanked him forward, shook him hard enough that Frank's head snapped back, said something directly into Frank's face, close enough that their noses almost touched. Frank went pale. Even from 50 feet away, even with the poor lighting, I could see the color drain from his face. The big man released him and then patted Frank's cheek, almost affectionately. Almost affectionate. Then walked away. Got into a black SUV with tinted windows and drove off. Frank stood there for 5 minutes. Didn't move. Just stood there like he was processing his own execution date. Loan shark. Had to be. Frank was in deeper than credit card debt. Way deeper. He'd borrowed from people who don't accept payment plans or bankruptcy settlements. People who collect debts with baseball bats and broken kneecaps. Perfect. This was better than I'd hoped. I started documenting everything with photos. Bought a cheap digital camera from a pawn shop. Nothing fancy. Just good enough to capture faces and license plates. Time-stamped every photo. Dated every entry in my notebook. Built a file that could bury him if needed. But I had to be patient. Had to wait for the right moment. Timing was everything. Meanwhile, Lily was unraveling, falling apart in slow motion. She'd lost more weight, stopped posting online entirely. When I visited, which I did twice a week now, whether she wanted me to or not, she was quiet, distant, like part of her had shut down to protect itself from reality. Frank's been sleeping in the spare room, she mentioned one day. Casual, like it was normal, like it was no big deal that her 4-month-old marriage had already devolved into separate bedrooms. Says my snoring keeps him up. You don't snore. You've never snored a day in your life. I guess I do now. Stress maybe. Weight loss can change breathing patterns or something. Lily. Mum, please, not today. I can't do this today. But she was starting to see. I could tell. The scales were tipping. She watched Frank differently now when he came home late. Noticed when he lied about where he'd been. Caught him in contradictions about work schedules and client meetings. She was waking up, slowly, painfully, but waking up. I just needed to give her one more push, one more undeniable piece of evidence that Frank was not the man she'd married, not the man she thought she'd married. The opportunity came when Frank's father, John Barrett, invited everyone to Sunday dinner at his estate. Fancy affair, mandatory attendance. Lily called me, asked if I'd come. Please, Mum, I need you there. For moral support. Frank's been weird all week, nervous about something. I don't want to do this alone. I went. The Barrett estate was massive. Stone mansion on 5 acres. Circular driveway with a fountain. Marble everything inside. Art on the walls. Real art, originals. The kind with brass plaques and museum provenance. Staff serving drinks on silver trays. Old money. Serious money. The kind of money that buys silence and influence and gets away with anything. John Barrett held court in his study. Dark wood, leather chairs, cigar smoke, the smell of expensive whiskey and male privilege. He greeted me with a handshake that was firm and dismissive. Nina, wonderful to see you. Liar. He'd never liked me. Too poor. Too common. Wrong side of the tracks. But he had to be polite because I was his daughter-in-law's mother. Family, technically, even if I was embarrassing family. Dinner was formal. 5 courses, everything pretentious. Frank barely touched his food, pushed it around his plate. Lily was silent, didn't make eye contact with anyone. John talked about business, markets, opportunities. His wife, Margaret, asked polite questions about nothing important. How was my apartment? How was work? How nice the weather had been. Then John dropped it. Frank, tell everyone about the Walker deal. Frank went rigid, actually flinched. Dad, maybe later. Nonsense, this is family. They should hear about your success. John smiled. Proud. Puffed up. Frank's been working on a major development deal. Walker Properties, George Walker's company, $5 million contract. Should close next month. Biggest deal of Frank's career. Lily looked at Frank. Actually looked at him. $5 million? It's not that simple. It's very simple, John interrupted, bulldozed right over Frank's objection. You close this deal, and all your money problems disappear. Right, son? All those little issues you've been having. Gone. Frank's jaw clenched. His hand gripped his wine glass so hard I thought it might shatter. Right. So that was it. Frank was counting on this deal to save him, to pay off the debts, the loan sharks, the mounting disasters. Everything rode on Walker Properties. All his hopes pinned on one contract. After dinner, I found Frank alone on the terrace, smoking. He didn't usually smoke except when extremely stressed. The cigarette shook slightly in his hand. Big deal, I said. Casual, conversational. He jumped, nearly dropped the cigarette. Jesus, Nina, you scared me. Sorry. I leaned against the stone railing, looked out at the manicured gardens. Walker Properties, that's a lot of money. Must be exciting. Yeah, it is. He took a long drag, exhaled slowly. Look, about Lily. I know things have been rough between us, but this deal changes everything. Once it closes, we can breathe again. Be happy again. Like we were in the beginning. You think money will fix it? Money fixes most things, removes stress, gives you options. Not self-respect, not trust. Money doesn't fix those things. His eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I smiled. Sweet, harmless. Just a concerned mother-in-law making conversation. Just an observation. Good luck with the deal, Frank. I hope it works out for you. I walked away, left him confused and unsettled and slightly paranoid. Because I'd already made my decision. That deal was never going to close. Not if I had anything to do with it. And I had everything to do with it. The Walker deal was scheduled to close in 4 weeks. I had exactly 4 weeks to destroy it. 4 weeks to dismantle Frank's last hope of salvation. First, I needed information, real information, details. I spent 3 days at the library researching Walker Properties online, scrolled through their website, read their mission statement, studied their portfolio, found out they were a family-owned company run by George Walker, 62 years old, conservative, traditional, valued integrity and reputation above all else, member of the Chamber of Commerce, served on several charity boards, donated to churches and schools. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. This was a man who cared about image and morality and doing business with the right sort of people. I created a detailed dossier on Frank, everything I'd collected over 4 months. Photos from the casino, time-stamped, dated. Frank at the poker table, chips scattered, drink in hand. Frank losing. Frank borrowing money from friends. Frank writing checks at the cage. Dates and times of every visit. The meeting with the loan shark. I'd gotten a decent photo of that, the big man's hand gripping Frank's collar. Credit card statements that Lily had copied for me during one of her stays. Just in case we need them for the divorce, I'd said. Just in case. Everything documented, organized, damning. Then I drafted a letter. Spent 2 days getting the tone exactly right. Anonymous. Professional. Concerned citizen. Someone who felt obligated to share troubling information. Dear Mr. Walker, I feel compelled to bring to your attention some concerning information regarding Frank Barrett of Barrett Enterprises. I understand you are currently negotiating a significant business deal with Mr. Barrett. Before you finalize this partnership, I believe you deserve to know certain facts about his character and financial situation. Frank Barrett has a serious gambling addiction. He frequents the Grand Oak Casino multiple times per week, where he regularly loses substantial sums of money at poker tables. He is currently at least $60,000 in credit card debt, possibly more. He has been observed borrowing money from friends and associates, which he has not repaid. Most troublingly, he has been witnessed meeting with individuals who appear to be loan sharks or other criminal elements. I have enclosed photographic evidence and documentation supporting these claims. I am not doing this out of malice, but out of genuine concern. Frank Barrett is desperate, reckless, and in serious financial trouble. He is not a stable or trustworthy business partner. Consider carefully whether this is someone you want to do business with. Your reputation and your company's integrity may be at stake. A concerned party. I printed the letter on generic paper from the library. Used their printer so nothing could be traced to me. Made copies of all my photos and documents. Everything clean, professional, impossible to dismiss as crazy rambling. I mailed it from 3 towns over. Used a generic envelope. No return address. Wiped everything down for fingerprints, like I was some kind of criminal mastermind. Felt ridiculous, but also thorough. Then I waited. 1 week passed. 2. Frank grew increasingly anxious. I knew because Lily told me. He was snapping at her constantly, coming home late, drinking more. She started staying at my apartment more often, brought a few more clothes each time. We didn't talk about divorce yet. Not explicitly, but it was coming. I could feel it approaching like a storm you can smell in the air hours before it hits. 3 weeks in, Frank got a call. I wasn't there, but Lily described it to me later in detail. He went white, she said, absolutely white, like he'd seen a ghost. Then he said he had to go. Left immediately, didn't say where, didn't come home until after midnight. Did he seem angry? Scared. He seemed terrified. I've never seen him like that. The Walker deal was falling apart. George Walker had received my letter and started asking questions, making inquiries, digging into Frank's background, finding all the things Frank had worked so hard to hide. 4 days before the scheduled closing, Frank got another call. The final call. The deal was off. Walker Properties was withdrawing. No explanation given. Just a terse message from Walker's attorney, citing concerns about Mr. Barrett's professional conduct and financial stability. Frank spiraled, completely fell apart, started drinking heavily, working his way through a bottle of expensive whiskey every night. Stayed at the casino until dawn, losing money he absolutely didn't have. The loan shark started calling constantly, then visiting the house, then making threats that Lily overheard through the door. I documented everything, every meltdown, every late night, every threatening phone call, built my case, prepared for the final act. Lily filed for separation the next week, moved into my apartment permanently, brought all her clothes, her important documents, her laptop, left everything else, said she didn't want anything that reminded her of him. She cried for 3 days straight, big, ugly, painful sobs, blamed herself, said she should have tried harder, should have been a better wife, should have lost weight faster, should have been more understanding about his stress. I held her and told her none of this was her fault, that Frank was sick, that addiction wasn't something she could have fixed with love or effort or being smaller, that she deserved better, so much better. But I didn't tell her what I'd done, not yet. The timing wasn't right. Frank called her constantly, dozens of times a day, left voicemails begging her to come back, promising he'd change, swearing he'd get help, go to therapy, join Gamblers Anonymous, fix everything, be the husband she deserved. She almost believed him, almost went back. I could see her wavering, see her wanting to believe that love could fix this. Then he made a catastrophic mistake. He left a voicemail late one night, 3 a.m, drunk, furious, beyond rational thought. "You're unbelievable. You ruined everything. Things were fine until you started complaining about money. If you hadn't let yourself go, I could have kept things together. I could have focused. But no. You had to let yourself slip. Had to overeat and lose control. This is all on you. Every bit of it. You did this. You destroyed our marriage. You destroyed my life. It's your fault." Lily played it for me the next morning. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the phone. "Mom, what do I do?" "We destroy him," I said. "Completely." Lily stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "What?" "We destroy him," I repeated. My voice was calm, steady. This wasn't rage talking. This was cold calculation. "He's been using you, manipulating you, calling you horrible things, making you feel worthless. And he's gotten away with it because you've been too kind, too forgiving, too willing to see the best in people. But that ends right now. Today. Mum, I can't just—" "Yes, you can. And you will. Because he doesn't deserve mercy. He deserves consequences, real consequences, the kind that follow you forever." I walked to my closet, pulled out the plastic storage bin I'd been keeping hidden in the back, carried it to the coffee table, opened it, showed her everything I'd collected over 5 months. My notebooks filled with dates and times and locations. The photos, hundreds of them, organized chronologically. Frank at the casino, Frank with the loan shark, Frank writing bad checks, the credit card statements, the documented lies, the voicemails, everything. All of it, my entire case laid out like evidence at a trial. She stared at the contents spread across my coffee table. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "You did this. You've been doing this. For months." "Yes." "You followed him, spied on him, documented everything." "Yes." "You sabotaged his deal with Walker. You sent that letter." "Yes. And I'd do it again." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you have believed me? If I'd come to you 2 months ago with all this, would you have listened? Or would you have accused me of being jealous and controlling and trying to ruin your marriage?" She didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth, she wouldn't have believed me. Not until she saw it herself. Not until she lived it. Not until Frank destroyed whatever love she'd had for him with his own words and actions. "What now?" she finally asked. Her voice was quiet, hollow. "Now we finish it. Frank has another deal coming up. Smaller than Walker, but still important. A potential investor named Richard Cross. They're meeting next week. If Frank can secure Cross's investment, he might crawl out of this hole, might survive. And if he survives, he'll blame you forever. He'll make sure everyone knows it was your fault, your nagging, your weight, your inadequacy. And you want to stop it. I want to expose him, publicly, completely, permanently, so everyone knows exactly who Frank Barrett really is, so he can never hurt anyone else the way he hurt you." Lily was quiet for a long time. I watched her process, saw the emotions cycle across her face, shock, anger, grief, fear, then something harder, something I'd never seen in her before. Resolve. "What do you need me to do?" We planned for 3 days, mapped out every detail. Lily had access to Frank's computer. She still had all his passwords. He'd never thought to change them after she moved out. She logged in remotely, found emails, financial records, more evidence of his gambling and debts, things even I hadn't been able to find. We built an airtight case, unassailable, undeniable. Then we reached out to Richard Cross's office. Professional email, formal tone, said we had information about Frank Barrett that Mr. Cross should know before making any investment decisions. Requested a meeting at his earliest convenience. Cross's assistant called back within an hour. Mr. Cross was very interested. "Could we meet tomorrow afternoon?" We could. We met him at his downtown office. Sleek building, marble lobby, elevator to the 20th floor. Cross's personal office was impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive desk, art that looked like it belonged in a museum. The man himself was late 50s, expensive suit, sharp eyes that missed nothing. He'd built his fortune from nothing. Self-made, successful, careful. He listened while we presented everything. I did most of the talking, laid it out chronologically. The gambling addiction, the mounting debts, the loan sharks, the verbal abuse, the failed Walker deal, the lies upon lies upon lies. Showed him photos, documents, played him the voicemail where Frank blamed Lily for everything. Lily sat beside me, silent and composed. Her presence was proof, living evidence of Frank's destruction. "Why are you telling me this?" Cross asked when we finished. His voice was neutral, giving nothing away. "Because he doesn't deserve to win," Lily said. Her voice was steady, strong. "He spent our entire marriage lying to me, using me, making me feel worthless, making me question my own sanity, and I almost let him get away with it. I almost believed it was my fault. And now I know better. Now I want everyone to know what he really is." Cross studied her, then me. His expression was unreadable. "You're his wife and his mother-in-law." "Ex-wife," Lily corrected. "Separation papers were filed last week. Divorce will be final in 6 months." "And you?" He looked at me. "What's your motivation here?" "I'm a mother who's tired of watching her daughter be destroyed by a narcissistic gambler. I'm tired of men like Frank Barrett getting away with abuse because they're charming and connected and know how to play the game." Cross smiled. It wasn't kind. It was predatory, satisfied. "I appreciate the information. Frank Barrett called me yesterday, actually. Very eager for a meeting. Practically begging for one. I think I'll still take that meeting, but I can promise you it won't go the way he hopes." "Thank you," I said. "Don't thank me. I'm doing this for business reasons. Frank Barrett is a liability. I don't invest in liabilities. Never have, never will. It's why I'm successful." He stood, extended his hand. "But I do respect what you've done here. Not many people have the spine to burn everything down and walk away from the ashes." We left. Lily was quiet in the elevator, silent through the lobby. When we got to the parking garage, she turned to me. "I feel guilty." "Don't. I loved him, Mum. I really did. At least I thought I did. And now I'm actively destroying him." "No, he destroyed himself. We're just making sure everyone knows it. We're just making sure he faces consequences for once in his privileged life." She nodded, wiped her eyes. Okay. What's next?" "Next, we wait. And when Frank falls, we make sure he falls hard enough that he never gets back up." Frank's meeting with Richard Cross happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I know the exact time because Lily tracked his location on her phone. He'd never removed her from his Find My Friends app, one of many stupid oversights he'd made. He was in Cross's building for exactly 17 minutes. Then his car left the parking garage at high speed. Lily's phone rang 20 minutes later. "Frank." She let it go to voicemail. We listened together, put it on speaker. "You've betrayed me. You told him everything. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I'm finished, completely finished. And it's all your fault, yours and your mother's. I know she influenced you. I know she's been controlling you. She's out of her mind. She's obsessed. And now she's ruined everything for me. I hope you're satisfied. I hope you and that woman are very happy together." The message cut off. He'd hit the time limit. 2 minutes of pure rage. Another call. Another voicemail. "I'm sorry. Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of that. I'm just stressed. I'm panicking. Please call me. We can fix this. We can fix everything. Just give me a chance. One more chance. I'll do anything. Get help. Real help. Just don't abandon me. Please." Lily deleted both messages without comment. Her face was blank. "Should I feel bad?" "Do you?" She thought about it. Really thought about it. No, not really. Is that wrong? Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you honest. It makes you someone who's finally seeing clearly. But we weren't done. Cross had been step one. The appetizer. Now came the main course. I'd spent weeks, months, really, gathering contact information for everyone in Frank's life. Everyone who mattered. Everyone who'd ever supported him, or believed in him, or given him opportunities. His father's business partners, his college friends, his former colleagues, his father's country club buddies, his mother's charity circle friends, everyone. I sent them all the same email, anonymous account, professional tone, detailed documentation. Frank Barrett is not who you think he is. Before you continue your relationship with him, business or personal, you deserve to know the truth. I included everything, every photo, every financial record, the voicemail where he verbally abused Lily, the documentation of his gambling addiction, his dealings with loan sharks, his verbal abuse, his lies, his manipulation, everything, a complete picture of who Frank Barrett really was when the mask came off. I sent it at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, scheduled delivery for 6 a.m. across all time zones. By noon, Frank's life was in flames, a wildfire of consequences spreading through every corner of his existence. His father called him. I know because John Barrett called Lily afterwards, absolutely furious, demanding to know if the information was true, demanding to know why she hadn't told him, why she'd let his son spiral out of control, why she'd gone public instead of coming to the family. "Is it true?" John demanded. "All of it?" "Yes," Lily said, her voice steady, completely steady. "All of it, every word, every photo, every document." "Why didn't you tell me? I could have gotten him help. Discreetly. The family could have handled this privately. Because you wouldn't have believed me. Just like I didn't believe my mother at first. Just like no one believes women when we talk about the men who hurt us. You would have found excuses, explanations, ways to blame me instead. That's not... Yes, it is. That's exactly what would have happened. So instead, I made sure everyone knew the truth. All at once. No more hiding, no more covering up, no more protecting him from his own actions." John hung up, but within hours, Frank was removed from his position at Barrett Enterprises. Indefinite leave to address personal matters, the company statement said. Everyone in their industry knew what that meant. You don't get put on indefinite leave and come back. His friends stopped answering his calls. The few who did told him they wanted nothing to do with him. One called him a toxic disaster waiting to happen. Another said, "You lied to all of us, for years, about everything. We're done." Social media exploded. People were talking, posting, sharing the information I'd sent, commenting, speculating. Frank Barrett was becoming a cautionary tale in real time, a warning about privilege and addiction and the dangers of enabling bad behavior. The loan shark showed up at his townhouse. Lily wasn't there. She'd moved out weeks ago, but neighbors reported seeing 2 large men escort Frank to a black SUV. He returned 4 hours later, visibly shaken, walking funny like he'd been hurt. His entire world collapsed in 72 hours. Everything he'd built, every relationship, every opportunity. Gone, burned to ash. And we watched it happen, tracked it online, listened to the voicemails as they became increasingly desperate. "I should feel worse about this," Lily said one night. We were in my apartment, monitoring the fallout on her laptop. People were still posting, still sharing, still discussing. I should feel guilty about destroying someone's life, but I don't. Do you feel anything? Free. I feel free, like I can finally breathe without someone criticizing the sound I make. She looked at me. Is that terrible? Is that cruel? No, honey, that's healing. That's what justice feels like. Frank tried to reach out one more time, showed up at my apartment building, drunk, furious, desperate. The security guard, bless that man, called me before letting him up. "Ms. Foster, there's a Frank Barrett here demanding to see you and your daughter. Send him away. He's very insistent, Mom, very agitated. Then call the police. He's harassing us. We have a no-contact order." We didn't, actually, but we would soon. Frank left before the cops arrived, but he sent one final email to Lily that night. His last message, his final words. "I loved you, despite everything, despite all your flaws. I loved you. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, the only good thing in my life, and you threw it away. You threw us away because your mother poisoned you against me, because you were too weak to stand up to her manipulation. I hope you're happy with your life. I hope you and your psychotic mother enjoy destroying people. That's all you're good for. Destruction, ruin. You're both miserable people who can't stand to see anyone else happy. I hope someday you realize what you've done. I hope you live with that guilt forever." Lily read it aloud to me. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. Deep belly laughs that turned into sobs that turned back into laughs. Catharsis. Release. "He loved me. Can you believe that? He thinks calling someone a fat pig and sleeping in separate bedrooms and blaming them for his gambling addiction is love. Some people don't know what love is. They think possession is love, control is love, having someone to blame is love. Yeah, I'm starting to realize that." She deleted the email, blocked his number, blocked his email, changed all her passwords, deleted her old social media accounts and started fresh, applied for a formal divorce, started therapy, started rebuilding, and slowly, carefully, painfully, she started healing. But I still had one more move to make, one final blow to ensure Frank Barrett never recovered, never came back, never hurt anyone else ever again. Frank's father tried to protect him. Of course he did. John Barrett was powerful, connected, used to fixing problems with money and influence and well-placed phone calls. He reached out to people privately, tried to do damage control, called business partners, explained that Frank was struggling with mental health issues, that the family was getting him help, the best help money could buy, that this was all a misunderstanding blown wildly out of proportion by a bitter ex-wife with an axe to grind. Some people believed him, not many, but some. The ones who owed John favors, the ones who couldn't afford to alienate the Barrett family, the ones who valued connections over truth. That's when I decided to go public, really public, undeniably public. I contacted a journalist named Rebecca Mills. She worked for an online news site called Metro Watch that focused on business corruption, white-collar crime, and accountability for the powerful. I'd been reading her articles for months. She was thorough, ethical, unafraid of powerful people. She'd taken down corrupt politicians, exposed financial fraud, made enemies of people who destroyed anyone who threatened them. Perfect. I sent her everything, the full file, every photo, every document, every piece of evidence I'd collected over 6 months, every voicemail, every credit card statement, every witness account, everything. I dumped my entire investigation into her inbox. Frank Barrett presents himself as a successful businessman from a reputable family, I wrote in my email. But the truth is very different. He's a gambling addict who verbally abused his wife, ran up massive debts, associated with criminal elements, and lied to everyone in his life. His father is now attempting to cover this up and rehabilitate his son's image. The public deserves to know the truth about who these people really are. Rebecca called me 3 days later. "Is this information accurate? Can you verify all of this?" "Every single word." "Can I verify it independently?" "I can provide contact information for people who witnessed various events, including my daughter, his ex-wife. Would she be willing to speak on the record, use her real name?" I looked at Lily. She was sitting across from me, listening to the call on speaker. She nodded. Firm. resolved. Yes, I said. She would. The article published 2 weeks later. Rebecca had done her homework, verified everything, interviewed Lily at length, talked to people at the casino, bartenders, dealers, managers, confirmed the loan shark connection through anonymous police sources, contacted Richard Cross and George Walker, both of whom provided statements, even found Frank's arrest record from college and got comments from former friends about his drinking and gambling patterns, even back then. The article was devastating, comprehensive, undeniable, true. The fall of Frank Barrett, how a privileged son's addiction destroyed his family and career. Rebecca laid it all out. Frank's gambling addiction, the debts, the verbal abuse documented in voicemails, the loan sharks, the failed business deals, Lily's testimony about the emotional abuse, the systematic lying, the manipulation, the sense of entitlement that let him believe he could treat people however he wanted and face no consequences. And she didn't stop there. She connected it to larger patterns, talked about how family wealth enables destructive behavior, how men from privileged backgrounds often face no accountability for their actions, how addiction gets excused and covered up when you have money and connections, how women's testimony about abuse gets dismissed and minimized. The article went viral, really viral, shared thousands of times in the first day. Local media picked it up, then regional. By the end of the week, Frank Barrett was a minor national news story, the poster boy for privilege and addiction, and consequences finally catching up. His father's company took another massive hit. Stock dropped 12% in 2 days. John Barrett gave a tense press conference, jaw clenched, furious underneath the careful professional veneer, saying his son was receiving treatment and the family would appreciate privacy during this difficult time. But the damage was complete, total, irreversible. Frank would never recover from this. His name was poisoned now. Every potential employer would Google him and find that article. Every future girlfriend would discover his past. Every opportunity would be closed. Every door would be locked. He was finished, permanently, completely, and I felt absolutely no remorse. 3 months after the article published, Lily's divorce was finalized. Frank didn't contest it, didn't ask for anything, didn't fight, just signed the papers his lawyer put in front of him and disappeared. Rumor had it he'd moved to another state. Someone said Nevada, someone else said Montana or Idaho, somewhere far from the East Coast, far from anyone who knew his name, far from the wreckage of his former life. His father never spoke to us again. Not that we expected him to, not that we wanted him to. The Barrett family closed ranks, circled wagons, pretended Frank had never existed, removed him from the company website, stopped mentioning him in interviews,